Yo, what is up everybody? Welcome to the video. I hope your morning is going good. Today we got a fun video. We're talking about the games from yesterday. Then at the end we're going to talk about my predictions for today. We have some epic matches. The teams are set. The Los Angeles Valiant will be taking on the New York Excelsior, and the Los Angeles Gladiators will be taking on the Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising decided they wanted an easy opponent, and that's why they picked the Los Angeles Gladiators. It came straight out of Huck's mouth. So we're going to cover everything from yesterday. As well as that, we'll be talking a little bit about Ryujehong again. Is he the GOAT, guys? Swapping over to Winston, is that going to be what defines his career and makes him the best player of all time? Or will it be what ruins his career similar to Taimu? I honestly have no idea, and I can't wait to find out. And we'll also be covering, guys, are the Houston Outlaws screwed? Will they miss out on the overall playoffs? If you're new around here, guys, do not forget, like the video, subscribe. I upload Overwatch League content every single day. Join the family, join the giveaway. 10 Overwatch League jerseys. It might be the last day, I don't even know. So you better click that gleam.io link down below and try to win an Overwatch League jersey, courtesy of yours truly. Let's go ahead and jump into this video now, though. We started off with the London Spitfire and the Shanghai Dragons yesterday. It was a pretty interesting match, I'd say. Shanghai, they've consistently been able to pick up a map against good teams in the league, and they've shown steady signs of improvement. Now, this set overall wasn't really that close at all. The London Spitfire really did give it to the Shanghai Dragons in the first 3 maps. We started off on Temple of Anubis. It was almost their first hold. Shanghai did crack that first point eventually, but they struggled on the second one. And London Spitfire on their attack, they breezed through both points, capped it, won the map with over 4 minutes left, put them up 1-0. Then we swapped over to Numbani. Of course, the London Spitfire, they're 10-0 on Numbani. There's no way in hell Shanghai Dragons are going to win it. Surprisingly, Shanghai Dragons, they did pick up a point. Although, again, similar to the Anubis map, they almost got first held, but it was a breeze for London once again on attack, pushed through, and they won the map with over 4 minutes left. Let's put them up 2-0. We swapped over to Nepal, and Nepal's been a map that Shanghai Dragons have been pretty decent at recently, one that they've been able to pick up more than others, and, it actually wasn't that great against the London Spitfire, though. London usually struggles on control, specifically Nepal too, and the village round where you have to run tanks. Hurag was playing, he did pretty well on Junkrat, and they took the series 3-0, and we moved on to that very last map, Junkertown, and honestly, this is probably Shanghai's best map. I know I did say that Nepal's a really good map for them, and if they are picking one up, it usually is that one, but it's also Junkertown too. This is definitely their best map in my opinion. Even if they lose it, it's really close. Addo and Dia are both really good at that Widowmaker. And speaking of Addo, he is really good. One player that is really impressing me as of recently. I know I said it in my video yesterday, but it's just true. He's been very consistent the past few weeks. Every single match, he'll make awesome plays where you're just like, wow, man, I didn't know this guy was that good. His Tracer's great, his Genji's great, his Widowmaker's starting to look good. And again, I said yesterday, 100%, I think the Shanghai Dragons are going to beat the Dallas Fuel. I'm willing to predict that now. I don't care that Effect's going to be back for Stage 4. Mark my words, Shanghai Dragons will win that match. So overall, looking at the standings now for Stage 3, London Spitfire, they ended up finishing in 6th place, sitting at 5-5, which, to be honest, isn't that bad considering they started out 2-4, won 3 of their last 4, only lost 1 against Boston. As for the Shanghai Dragons, 0-10, they're still yet to win a match. And then moving on to the overall league standings, we have London Spitfire sitting overall in 3rd at 20-10, 1 map ahead of the Seoul Dynasty. As for the Shanghai Dragons, 0-30, as I said, yet to win a map. But watch your back, Dallas Fuel. They're coming, and they're hungry for a win, I promise you. For London Spitfire going into the next stage, I really think it's all about making sure that Birdring is ready to play for them and help them stay at the top of these standings. They don't want to slip down anymore. You want to have a high seed going into the playoffs. It'd be unfortunate if they did get matched up against Boston Uprising or New York Excelsior in one of the first rounds. And I mean, the difference from 3rd place right now and 6th place in the standings is only 2 maps. So London really has to be careful in this next stage. And that's pretty much it for them in the Shanghai Dragons. Let's move on to the next set of the day, which was the Seoul Dynasty taking on Houston Outlaws. We once again got to see Ryujehong on that main tank role. And wow, Seoul Dynasty was impressive in this set. And honestly, I'm starting to worry about the Houston Outlaws, guys. I don't know if they're going to be able to make the overall playoffs. We'll talk a little bit more about that after I discuss the games. So let's just go ahead and hop into it. We first started off on Temple of Anubis, and both teams looked to have a really good first point defense. Where the difference really came in this map was the second point. Seoul Dynasty, after they finally took that first point, they were able to snowball onto second point using their ults, Dragon Blades, and all that, and they took the second point very easily. As for the Houston Outlaws, after they struggled to cap that first point, they weren't able to snowball, and they weren't able to even tick up anything. Seoul Dynasty was walking all over them, and in the very last team fight, Houston Outlaws, Raucus didn't even use his trank when he got jumped on. It was just a load of mistakes, one after another for the Houston Outlaws. They really struggled on Temple of Anubis against the Seoul Dynasty, which was really surprising, and Seoul Dynasty, they went up 1-0. And after Temple of Anubis, I kind of got worried for the Houston Outlaws, because looking at the maps, Numbani was coming up next. They're not going to win that, one of their worst maps. Ilios, that's a 50-50 for the Houston Outlaws. Junkertown, yeah, they'll probably win that. It's their best map. So that means to force a Game 5, they would either need to win Numbani or Ilios. They're not going to win Numbani, and as I said, Ilios is a 50-50. So I was worried at this point. We moved on to Numbani, and it was more of the same, but worse. Seoul Dynasty, they started off an attack, and they plowed through. Huge push for them. Oh, by the way, I want to go back to Temple of Anubis. We actually didn't see Fleta in there. We saw Wakid, and I actually think Wakid is an amazing projectile player. I know there's a lot of fans out there who are like, why the hell is Fleta not playing? Who on earth would put in Wakid and Munchkin instead of having Fleta in there? If you really pay attention to Wakid's gameplay, he's honestly one of the best projectiles in the league. His Genji and Junkrat are top notch, one of the best. We saw that on Temple of Anubis, and we saw it on Junkertown. So I do think it makes sense for them pulling Fleta on maps where you want to run a Genji Tracer comp more. Alright, so back into Numbani, Seoul Dynasty, they had that amazing attack. And just because I said Wakid's an amazing Genji, doesn't mean Fleta's not either. Because he definitely proved it on Numbani. His blades were crazy. There were multiple times where Linkser bladed, and then Fleta counterbladed. You would see Linkser running with his head off like a chicken, not able to get any kills. And here comes Fleta, man. Freaking god of blades, slashing through everybody, getting 4, 5, 3 kills. He really did make Linkser look bad on this map. I mean, the whole Seoul Dynasty made Houston Outlaws look bad on this map. Houston barely capped first point, and then they really struggled on second, and that's where it was finished for them. Overall, we already know they're not good at Numbani. I think there's something like 1-7 or 1-6. Haven't had much success on it at all. Again, that's why we did see them run that Torb attack strat against the LA Gladiators. You got to pull something out to try to win it. So Seoul Dynasty, they went up 2-0 very easily. We then moved on to the third map, which was Ilios, and this wasn't really close at all. I know the first round was 100-80, I believe, but the only reason Houston Outlaws had a good amount of percentage was because they got lucky on capping the point first, but they didn't really win that team fight. Seoul Dynasty did. They capped it, and throughout, they only lost one team fight. On the second round, they went 100-0. Seoul Dynasty just straight up dominated. We did again get to see that comp on Wealth from the Seoul Dynasty with Ryujehong on the Orisa, Fleta on the Roadhog. I really do like that comp, and it's cool seeing Ryujehong be able to play multiple things. We also saw in Junkertown, he played that Orisa, and let's go ahead and move on to Junkertown. Seoul Dynasty was up 3-0, and if there was a map in this poll for the Houston Outlaws to win, we all know it would be Junkertown. Fortunately for them, man, Seoul Dynasty came to play. Ryujehong, wow. The guy, he's playing Winston, and he's playing it at a high level with only 1 week of practice. That's insane. To be fair for the Houston Outlaws, though, they did put up a really good fight on Junkertown. I mean, actually, thankfully for the fans and the viewers, because if they didn't put up a good fight, this set would have been so boring. It would have been a huge stomp. Still was a stomp. Junkertown was literally the only map that was close. Houston Outlaws got nothing done in this set. Absolutely nothing. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm scared for them going into the next stage in the playoffs overall. This is the Houston Outlaws' third loss in a row. They got 4-0'd by Seoul Dynasty today. Earlier this week, they lost to San Francisco Shock 2-3. And then last week, they lost to the Los Angeles Gladiators 3-2. And guess what, guys? Going into stage 4, it's going to be rough for them. They start off against the London Spitfire, which, funny enough, is probably the easiest matchup early on in this stage for the Houston Outlaws. They are 2-0 against London in the regular season. Pretty impressive, but still, you can't count out the London Spitfire. They can win this easily too, especially if Birdwing is back and ready to go. This is where it gets really hard. Their second matchup in the first week is against the Boston Uprising. They're going to struggle there. Then moving on to the second week, they're going up against the Los Angeles Gladiators. Well, they just lost to the LA Gladiators in a really important matchup. Their next game, San Francisco Shock. They just lost to the San Francisco Shock. Then it gets a little bit easier in the middle of stage 4, but my point is they have a really rough start to stage 4, and if they continue to lose these next 3 to 4 matches, the overall playoffs are going to be out of reach for them. They're currently sitting in the 7th slot, 16-14. 2 matches behind the Philadelphia Fusion and Los Angeles Valiant, sitting in that 6th and 5th seed. So that means Houston Outlaws would need to win 3 more matches than Philly or LA Valiant to get ahead of them, or they could potentially win 2 more, and then we'd have to look at maps and tiebreakers, but it's 3 to be safe, which will be hard, because the Philadelphia Fusion only wins 5 matches. Houston has to win 8, and that's hard. That's impossible almost. Even if Philly only wins 4, Houston will still have to win 7, and that's pretty hard in this league. They're also dead tied with the Los Angeles Gladiators, who are 16 and 14 as well. So technically, if the Los Angeles Gladiators do really well, Houston Outlaws will still have to do better than them too. So it's going to be really rocky for the Houston Outlaws moving forward. I'm scared for them. I said it like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it, boys, and I'm standing by that. Alright, and now since we've seen more than one game from Ryujehong, he's played 2 full games in the Overwatch League on main tank. What do we think? Let's go ahead and start this off by playing this clip from the Overwatch League earlier. It's where Mr. X guesses which stats are Miro's and which ones are Ryujehong's. It's actually really informative. Here it is.
Let's play a little game with that one, Matt, and discuss, a little bit about these tanks. So, which of these Winstons is Ryujehong, and which of these Winstons is Miro? Who's that Pokemon?
On first glance, okay, so at first glance you would say like, okay, maybe Miro's the one with the higher deaths and the more eliminations because he's playing more aggressive. But I think you look at the Primal Rage kills and the Jump Pack kills, and I know that's heavily over towards one side, which I think the one criticism they made on the desk yesterday was Ryujehong's use of cooldowns, not using the cooldowns the best. So I would say Winston B would be Miro, Winston A would be Ryujehong. This is very close though.
All right, let's reveal it. You're right. Ryujehong is Winston A. But if you look at the stats here, Matt, there's not a huge difference, right? Ryujehong's getting in there with a good amount of damage. Final blows are good, slightly more deaths, but he's involved in a lot of these fights as well. You can see these eliminations are there. Maybe Jump Pack and Primal Rage kills are more of a mechanically intensive thing, so is he built into that role? But as you can see, it's not...
I thought this clip was very insightful, and overall Mr. X's analysis on guessing which was really good. It was very smart of him to point out the Primal Rage kills and the Jump Pack kills. Obviously, Ryujehong has been misusing his cooldowns a lot, taking bad jumps. As for the Primal Rage, as Uber said, it is a mechanical thing. It obviously takes a lot of time to master the juggle of Primal Rage. You don't just look like Gesture and Fisher out of nowhere. Lots of practice, guys. So it makes sense that Ryujehong is going to be down there, and Miro's a little bit higher since he is a Winston main and he's played it for so long. And overall, to be honest, Miro kind of wins in every statistic besides eliminations per 10 minutes. But the main thing here is that Ryujehong is actually kind of keeping up in a lot of these. There's some differences here and there, so overall, if you think about him only being able to play Winston for 1 week, that's pretty damn good. And I mean, if we look at the results they've had, hands down, Ryujehong is helping within the comms or leadership-wise. He's doing something to help them play better. Because in the 2 times Miro played against Lud and Spitfire, he went 0-8 in maps. In the last 2 times that Seoul Dynasty played against the Houston Outlaws, they won the first meeting 3-2, and they lost the second one 3-1. So huge differences in their performance when Ryujehong is in there for the better. And to me, that speaks more than any statistic you can look at. The impact he's having on the team's performance overall is huge. And it seems like the Seoul Dynasty coaching staff and players agree with this. Let's go ahead and play a clip where So tells us what the Seoul Dynasty said about having Ryujehong in on main tank.
When the league started, Ryujehong was known to be one, if not the best support player in the whole wide world. And this week, he's showing up on stage playing main tank. So everyone was wondering what is going on with the Seoul Dynasty. So of course at halftime I actually caught up with the coaches and asked them themselves, like, what's going on? Why is the support player the best support player on your main tank role? And they told me that it's really complicated and we can't really give away too many informations. However, what we can tell you is that they personally felt they need like some more stability, and they feel like Ryujehong on that Winston, on that main tank role in general, can provide this stability, and yeah, that's why they decided to make that role swap. So far, they are very happy with the outcome. I mean, right now, they're 3-0 up against the Houston.
So I say Seoul Dynasty keeps running Ryujehong on the Winston, and I'm really intrigued to see how good he might be during maybe the middle of stage 4, because seriously, being this good in 1 week of practice, guys, is absolutely insane. It's incredible. It really shows how good Ryujehong is as a player, and that brings up the question now. Is he the GOAT or will he be the GOAT? Right now, I don't know if he is the GOAT. He's up there. He definitely is. But so far, he hasn't proved it in the Overwatch League. If we're talking prior to the Overwatch League, Ryujehong 100%, he is the GOAT of all Overwatch. What he did with Lunatic High during Season 2 and Season 3 of Apex was incredible. The guy was so clutch, he was such a playmaker, and he earns that. But now, since we've been in the Overwatch League and we're pretty much 3 stages down, Seoul Dynasty has failed to make a playoff, and they failed to look very good at most times. They've just seemed inconsistent, despite them still having a decent record. Overall, it's been a letdown. And of course, you can't put that all on Ryujehong. I mean, you can't put much of it on Ryujehong. He's played pretty fine. There's only so much you can do as a Zenyatta and as an Ana or whatever you're playing on support. So it's not his fault, but he definitely isn't the GOAT overall yet. Now, Seoul Dynasty go on to be one of the best teams in the league with him on Winston, and they maybe get a top 2 finish in the Overwatch League, then yeah, maybe we could start saying he is the GOAT. Only time will tell, and we're just going to have to wait and see. And that's pretty much it for the Houston Outlaws. That's it for the Seoul Dynasty. Let's move on to that very last match of the day, which was the Philadelphia Fusion and LA Valiant. So this set was very important, especially for the Philadelphia Fusion. They needed to get a 4-0 to keep their hopes alive for Stage 3 playoffs. And in the back, the Los Angeles Gladiators, probably for the first time ever, were rooting on the LA Valiant. They needed them to just pick up one map, and the LA Gladiators would be moving on to Sunday's playoffs. And yeah, all Philadelphia Fusion's fans, players' hopes was crushed on Volskaya, the very first map. Los Angeles Gladiators were probably celebrating in the back because their fellow home team, LA Valiant, was able to pick up the first map against Philly. It wasn't really that close. Soon and Bunny absolutely popped off. And Bunny, man, this guy is playing so much better than he ever did on Seoul Dynasty. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it's good for the LA Valiant, so good for Bunny. The guy's looking like an all-star lately. So first map went over to the LA Valiant, started off 1-0. Now just because Philadelphia Fusion's dreams of making Stage 3 playoffs was crushed in that first map, doesn't mean that they didn't want to win this set. Because this was a really important match for both these teams. They're currently dead tied in the standings, both sitting at 18 and 12. If Philly would have won it, they could have been up one set over the LA Valiant. And if the LA Valiant wins it, well, they're tied, which they are now. So Philly was definitely trying very hard, and so was the Valiant. Numbani was somewhat close. I mean, both teams capped, so you can consider it close, but the Philadelphia Fusion just had way more time, and it was an easy win for them overall. Something to note, Carpe actually did not play at all in this set. We saw Snillo and EQO in the entire time, which was really interesting. And I know Snillo is an amazing tracer, one of the best in the league. I mean, statistically, he is the best right now. And then EQO was also insane. The guy is so flexible. His Widowmaker's so good. His Genji is Pharah. He can play off tanks. He's just all around a really damn good player. So an EQO and Snillo duo isn't bad. But we're talking about Carpe, guys. MVP candidate. Definitely a top 5 in the world player right now. So it kind of doesn't matter how good EQO and Snillo are. Carpe is just a GOAT. He's one of the best. So you will 100% miss him when he's not on the field. As I said, Numbani was somewhat close, but Philly, they look like the better team overall. We moved on to Nepal, and we were tied up at 1-1. And just like the first two maps, it wasn't really all that close. LA Valiant, they looked like the better team throughout, and they took it, taking a lead in the series, 2-1. We then moved on to Route 66, and EQO definitely reminded us he is a really good Widowmaker. He stood up to Soon, who was also a really good Widowmaker in the league, and he looked better. And just like the first 3 maps, it wasn't all that close. Philadelphia Fusion were the better team on this map, and that means we were tied up, moving on to Oasis. And honestly, I thought Philadelphia Fusion had it in the bag, because so far, LA Valiant has been horrible on Oasis. It's definitely one of their worst maps, and they are one of the worst performers on map 5s. They just run weird comps and weird strategies that aren't as good as like Sombra or like tanks on University. LA Valiant decides to run agilities on Pharah, but it worked this time. It did for some reason. Philadelphia Fusion weren't able to handle agility's Pharah. And yeah, surprisingly, LA Valiant, they took Oasis and they took the set 3-2, tying it up in the standings with Philadelphia Fusion at 18 wins and 12 losses. So it was a fun set overall. It would have been really exciting if Philadelphia Fusion did get that 4-0. Unfortunately though, LA Valiant, they're looking pretty good right now. They only lost to Boston Uprising, New York Excelsior, and London Spitfire this stage. Arguably overall the 3 best teams in the league so far. So I think it's fair to say LA Valiant is looking like a top 4, top 5 team. As for the Philadelphia Fusion, they honestly struggled in this last stage, which was surprising, especially after their Stage 2 playoff performance. I thought they were definitely going to be one of the better Western teams alongside the Boston Uprising, but instead it was the LA Valiant. If they do continue to struggle, there is some threat that the LA Gladiators or Houston Outlaws could jump them in the standings. But I mentioned it earlier, they have to have 3 more wins than the Philadelphia Fusion to do that. And that will be really hard, because the Philadelphia Fusion can go 5-5 again in this stage. And as long as LA Gladiators and Houston Outlaws don't win 8 matches, which they probably won't, then they'll be safe. And that's it for the Philadelphia Fusion and LA Valiant. Let's move on to today's matches. The playoffs are here, guys. Boston Uprising called out the LA Gladiators in the first round. Huck said this when he was selecting which team he wanted to play.
All right, man. Well, the time has come. It is time for us to find out who you guys will be picking. Huck, I'm going to leave it to you because you're the president of gaming. Which team will you be facing off against first tomorrow?
Well, we don't have a warm-up tomorrow, so we wanted to pick an easy opponent. picking LA Gladiators.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
All right, you heard it from Huck. Anything you want to say to that?
I'll see you tomorrow.
Ah, yes, let's go. That's some hype. That is what we need in the Overwatch League. Some banter back and forth between the teams. Thank you, Huck. And I also liked Hydration's response. He was like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow then, boys. Let's do it. So I'm extremely excited for this LA Gladiators and Boston Uprising match. It's going to be close. Every time Boston plays, it's close. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. But that's not the only thing that happens every time the Boston Uprising plays. It might be close, but they win. They literally win every single time. So I'm going with the Boston Uprising in this set. I think it's going to be a 3-2 victory. One thing to note though, I do think the playoff maps are different from the regular season maps, or at least in a different order, and map 5 won't be Oasis. Don't quote me on this, that's how it was for the first 2 stages, and I'm currently on the Overwatch League website trying to see what maps they're playing tomorrow, but it's not loading at all. It literally doesn't say, so I have no idea what the maps are. And if the last map isn't Oasis, then it could be different for the Boston Uprising come Game 5. Regardless though, as I said, Boston Uprising will win it in 5. That's my pick. Moving on to the LA Valiant and New York Excelsior. The LA Valiant really hasn't ever put up a good fight against New York Excelsior, so it's really tough to say that they'll even be able to get maps in this match. It is the playoffs though, emotions are running high, and anything is possible, so I'm not going to count them completely out. I think the LA Valiant will be able to pick up 1 map, and the New York Excelsior are going to win 3-1. And that means we have the Battle of the Goliaths, guys. The 2 best teams in Overwatch League right now. Boston Uprising, 10-0 in Stage 3, taking on New York Excelsior, the reigning and defending champions from Stage 2. Oh my god, thinking about it gives me chills. I can't wait to watch this matchup, guys. And it's going to be so close. It's going to be the closest match I think we've ever seen in the Overwatch League. And when it comes down to it, the Boston Uprising are going to complete the stage sweep, taking out New York Excelsior and winning Stage 3. The Boston Uprising, they've proved it time after time. They are clutch. When they need to perform, they perform. I don't think the pressure will get to them. I think these guys have the best coaching staff in the league right now. Everybody is on a high of confidence, and they're going to ride that all the way into the sunset. Boston Uprising 3-2. That's my pick, guys. Let me know down below if you agree with me, disagree. Who do you got winning, guys? Subscribe, like the video, enter the giveaway. I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you later tonight. Peace.